Hello and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was, a weekly program where you get to sit back and catch up with the headlines of the week. To discuss this week's headlines, we have with us our group editor, Mr. Sujay Gupta, a very well-known journalist and very well-known for his incisive and insightful thoughts on the news behind the headlines. To begin with, we have the headlines from the Herald on Tuesday, May 24th, wherein there is a very perplexing kind of headline where you see, leave your water pumps behind, government directs ex-mining barons. And this is about the inability of the Water Resources Department to manage the mining pits. And I don't know under what provision of law, but they have asked the leaseholders to operate the pumps so that there is no catastrophe in the coming monsoon.
See, there's no provision of law as such. These are just the ways in which the executive functions in different ways. The irony is that you see the state has sent a notice to many of the leaseholders, or especially the ones whose leases were renewed, the 88 leases that were renewed.
Yeah.
And the notice basically indicated that these leaseholders have finished with all the remedies that were available to them under law.
Yeah.
And they need to vacate the leases because the leases no longer belong to them.
Yeah.
And the leases rightly belong to the state as a custodian of all the mineral resources on behalf of the people. So now they have sent notices saying that by 6th of June, if I'm not mistaken, they need to vacate.
Yeah.
Now, while the process is going on, the government realized that at least in some of the leases, actually the number of leases is not much, there will be about 2 or 3 of them, where there is a lot of water in those mining pits.
Yeah.
Because since no mining is going on, there's no dewatering happening.
Yeah.
Because when there's no dewatering happening, all the mining pits are full of water.
Yeah.
And water in the sense that it's not less water, they're almost like lakes all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is, if you don't, the water is there. If you do not maintain that water, or if you do not dewater it, then what happens is, there's a lot of excess water that seeps in. Water goes into the ground, and it becomes completely unmanageable. It also leads to the destruction of bunds and stuff like that on the side. So there is a lot of issues there. Ultimately, when the resource is now with the state should have the resources to manage it and pump the water out.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, I found the comment of the WRD minister rather surprising, saying we are unable to do it. How the state does not have the luxury of saying we are unable to do it.
Yeah.
Can the police department say we are unable to crack this case? Can the law department say that we are unable to form this law?
Yeah.
Similarly, can the PWD department say we are unable to build this road?
Yeah.
We cannot say that. So the WRD department does not have the luxury to say that we cannot maintain it. And then you go back to the same companies who you basically asked to completely vacate. So that's why we get this headline saying the government says leave, but leave your water pumps behind to pump the water out.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to May 25th, Wednesday.
Yeah.
And this is a follow-up story actually of the story which was done earlier with regard to the Atal Setu.
Yeah.
Not just Atal, but other setus and roads in Goa are a death trap for commuters. And this is a very perplexing kind, again, news, because, when something is handed over to you, or you purchase some new commodity, in this case it is a project which is handed over to the government.
Correct.
It should be as good as new, but you have new roads, the new highway, the Atal Setu, which was a signature project of the BJP government, ridden with potholes and dangerous to commuters.
No, I totally agree with you, because if you see the Atal Setu, it has gone through, if I'm not mistaken, at least 3 rounds of major repairs since the time it was commissioned. And that is absolutely uncalled for a project of this stature and this amount which has been spent for the Atal Setu. And it is a signature project. It's a project where a lot of funding has come in. You have got a lot of political and brownie points on, based on this.
Yeah.
You've showcased this as a major infrastructure achievement.
Yeah.
But the point is, yes, it has become dangerous. There are potholes there, and what do? To divert attention, you put speed radars there, as if to say that fast-moving cars is the problem and not the potholes.
Yeah.
That's a little unfair. You put speed radars. I'm not saying speed should not be checked, but don't do it as a diversionary tactic to avoid the attention basically on the potholes. But as our story said, that it is not just this. There are so many areas around bridges, culverts, small roads, village roads that need a lot of attention, especially during the monsoons, especially the new ones. The irony is that the old ones and the traditional pathways in the villages, they're absolutely fine. It is where the new projects where money has been spent, it is there where the problem lies.
And the tragedy is that, these are supposed to be much trumpeted, cemented roads, saying
Yes.
that this is a new technology,
Yes.
these are model roads.
That's true.
But then you have gone back to tar to patch up all the shortfalls.
Absolutely correct. So and that's the way it is.
Okay, May 26th on Thursday, Herald has done this very important story with regard to the Girdoli Lake and the all this damage which has been done
That's
through
right.
double tracking, especially with regard to the Nogozan Lake.
Yes. In Girdoli, actually carrying on from this project that we did, editorial project that we did a week before, where our teams went along the railway tracks in the Murmugao Taluka and parts of Salset, coastal Salset, to see how houses were getting damaged, how the double tracking was affecting lives. So this time we decided to go inwards into Goa, into Shandor and Girdoli and these places, where we proved that, see, it is not just the coastal areas that are getting affected. Double tracking passing through these pristine interior villages of Goa is also affecting village life. And in this particular case, this traditional lake which is there, which has been a source of sustenance to people in that area, in Girdoli, Shandor, and all the nearby villages. Now, when you are doing the double tracking work, a lot of the mud and debris is being dumped into this very lake. Now, it has choked the lake, it has affected the marine life, it has... because of which there's a lot of debris which is seeping into the mainland. The fields adjoining the lake also is getting affected. Bunds are getting weakened. So what people have decided to do is to take this whole thing in their own hands, because they are afraid that in the monsoons, because of the debris there, water is going to seep into their homes. So they found vigilante squads, and they are actually guarding those areas in front of different homes and all that, to raise the attention levels, and be at the same time be physically present just in case any calamity happens. So they're actually standing there like guards, like sentinels, to protect their homes and fields and other things from this rising lake, as it were.
Now, just as an aside, I mean, I would question how the railway goes about the project. Now, in the sense that when you have these railway projects, like for example going to the northeast and trying to connect the northeast or Jammu and Kashmir, these are seen as projects in national interest.
Right.
But these projects run into vast areas which are uninhabited.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Whereas in Goa, they are completely intensely and densely populated.
You are cutting through habitation.
Yeah.
See, we have seen this not just with railways. Even if you look at mining and mining transportation. My point is, do the mining trucks move through a bypass which was envisaged? No, they move through villages. This is the problem that is happening in Maye and Pisurli everywhere. So what has happened is that in the name of development, you're cutting through densely populated areas where people are living and existing. So the point is, to what extent will our day-to-day life be surrendered on the altar of development? Development needs to be all-inclusive. Cannot only be development for one section. Can you talk of the country's development when so many indigenous communities and villages are getting affected? I mean, at the end of the day, development can't be fulfilling for one party and so detrimental to another party.
Yeah. Okay. On Sunday, May the 29th, we have a story in the Herald with regard to property, the sale deeds which are done in absentia. The title of the article is "The Dead Don't Talk But They Sign." The same set of Goans are involved in majority of the sale deeds where owners have signed after they have died.
Yes, this is a story that we did. We are happy that we brought this topic up, and we got a lot of response and empathy from many Goans and non-Goans also, who are losing their land in a very funny kind of a way. Because you see, there are a large number of people in Goa who are not living here. Also, there are many Goans who may have moved on to other homes, but their traditional village homes and all are lying there. And when you have a home, you assume that the home is there, it belongs to you.
Yeah.
Suddenly they realize, after, when they go to check, or when somebody tells them, or some neighbor calls them up and say, look, we see bouncers in your house, or we see your, some gates being put around your house. When they go there and actually check there, they get completely shocked to see that, their property has actually been sold.
Yeah.
Now, what has happened is this unholy nexus of some brokers, some lawyers, some sub-registrars, all of them have got together and literally grabbed land, manipulated documents to put to show that the original owner has sold the land to XYZ, who's a broker. Okay, and that XYZ invariably ultimately sells it to the final buyer. But the point is that in most of the cases, the sale from the original seller to these middle brokers is very strange, because the original owner has passed away a long time ago. There are cases when the person has died in 1979, and in 1997 he signs a lease showing that he sold the land to somebody else. And then the middleman then in turn sells it to different parties in Delhi, Bombay, or it could even be here. So, now the point is, it is not just the family of the original landholder who are suffering. Even the buyer, the unsuspecting buyer who is buying that property, very often he's not a party to this whole scam. And when you buy it, and then he realizes that after he started constructing, the original owner's family pops up and say, hey, how did you get this land? This belongs to us.
Yeah.
And then that goes into this whole rigmarole of litigation. Now, the registrars and other people have found a good way out. They said, you somehow divert the matter to court, and let the court will not grant a stay on the sale of the property.
So status quo is there, so the person has the
but the people who want this thing to go on, they're very happy the matter lying in court as long as the project goes on.
Yeah.
So on one hand, the project is going on, the building is getting constructed, the land is literally out of the hands of the original owner.
Yeah.
He's running circles around the court, waiting for hearings after hearings. So by the time he gets a proper hearing, he himself is long gone, and his next generation keeps fighting. So there are cases when buildings are coming up, houses are coming up, and the original owners are fighting from generation to generation, trying to protect the land which has already gone out of their hands. And so they are trying to bolt the stables after the horses have bolted.
Yeah. So
secure the stables.
And this happened to one of the former women hockey Olympian who was living in Germany.
Yes, very much. That happened in Porvory.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Ottilia name was Mascarenhas.
Ottilia Mascarenhas.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So moving on to Monday, May 30th, that is the Statehood Day, we have the good news that the Pope has appointed Archbishop Felipe Neri Ferrao as Cardinal.
Monsignor Felipe Neri Antonio Sebastião da Rosario Ferrao, Arcivescovo de Goa e Dalmau, India.
Yes, it is a matter of great joy and recognition to not only Goa, to the Archdiocese of Goa, because he will be the first Goan cardinal from the Archdiocese of Goa.
Yeah.
There have been other Goan cardinals also
who have been outside
who've been in Bombay, who've been in Karachi, but he's going to be the first person. What is also important to know is that it is not an ordinary appointment, because the choice of cardinals is done after a lot of thought, and it also reflects on the personal qualities of the person who's been appointed the cardinal.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to have an absolutely impeccable record of service, of integrity, of honesty, and so on and so forth. It also means that when Archbishop Felipe Neri Ferrao, the Patriarch, becomes the cardinal, he will also be privileged and entitled to be one of the 16 cardinals who are under 80 years of age to participate or take part in the deliberations for the selection of the next pope as and when it arises.
Yeah.
There are 21 cardinals appointed, but 16 of them are under 80.
Yeah.
So they are there. He also has a chance to be on the chair of St. Peter in Vatican. That is also important. So these are important things as far as Goa is concerned. And also what is important is, it is also pertinent to know that Goa, as you would know very well, has had this whole history of spreading evangelism in different parts of the subcontinent, in Africa and other places. And that is a role that many Goan priests have made. So it is also a salutation to the spirit of evangelism that Goan priests have shown and displayed. So I think in all these aspects, I think it's a very, very big honor.
Okay. Then coming on to another interesting topic, that is milestone achieved, miles to go. This article basically speaks about the 35th Statehood Day.
Yes.
And how would you look at Goa in terms of this long journey that we have made of the last 35 years? I mean, it starts with the liberation journey.
That's true.
Yeah.
You see, when I will narrate just one incident, I think on the 29th of May 1987, there was a meeting of the Congress party which was ruling on the eve of that day. Yeah. And there was a meeting, nicely attended meeting, and everybody was there. And that time the National Congress General Secretary was R.L. Bhatia. Okay, and R.L. Bhatia in his speech, he said three things. That when statehood happens, one is, of course, Goa's identity is going to be completely secure. Secondly, Goans will no longer have to go abroad to secure jobs because jobs are going to be here.
Yeah.
Thirdly, our infrastructure and our facilities are going to be so good that we don't need to look elsewhere, and we will become a world-class tourist destination with regard to our infrastructure and all that.
Yeah.
See, I don't need to say beyond this. All we need to say is all we need to ask is that in these 35 years, have all these boxes been ticked?
Yeah.
Because if these boxes had been ticked, then the Honorable Pratap Singh Rane wouldn't have had to make that, I would say, infamous remark of Goans going abroad and working in toilets.
Yeah.
It was an insensitive remark.
Yeah.
But the fact that still a large number of Goans are moving have to go. And the point that after statehood, if you look at the number of Goans who've picked up Portuguese passports and have moved, itself is a sign that when you are seeking opportunities outside the state, outside the country, 35 years after you've got statehood, there is obviously some gap somewhere, and it's glaring. So I'm sure that needs to be addressed properly. We need to sort things out, see to it that jobs, employment and things are sorted out, and we live up to the ideals to based on which statehood was achieved. I think we still have a lot to achieve. Right?
Now, also reflecting on this issue of statehood, one is left to wonder whether the benefits were mostly political, in the sense that from 30 seats that we had before statehood, the number of MLAs went up to 40. That means more people got elected and took up public office.
Right.
And the other thing was, under the Union Territory status, Goa had 80% grant and 20% loan.
Right.
Now that reversed in 1987. So basically, I mean, do we have to contend with heavier load of taxes?
We are contending with a much heavier load of taxes, and also what is happening is that a lot of the taxes that we are supposed to get don't come to us directly.
Yeah.
They go into the central kitty and it is plowed back to us. Now that whole turnaround takes a very long time, because as a result of which we need to wait for money that we ourselves have earned.
Especially in the GST regime.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, economically, yes, there are far more challenges, and every project is built by taking huge amounts of loans. So we are keeping on furnishing our loans through more loans that we are taking. So as a result of which, our loan burden is going higher and higher and higher and higher. So where do we earn then?
Yeah. Okay. Then a third story on May 30th itself, on the day of statehood, talks about this panchayat election. Mm-hmm. The SEC has asked the government to seek permission from the appropriate court, which may be the Supreme Court, on postponing panchayat polls.
Yes, see, the SEC is playing safe, because there is a Supreme Court direction which very clearly says that you need not and you cannot postpone elections, especially on the grounds of reservations. Because if you need time to reserve seats to ensure that there is proper representation, then you need to do it either before the time limit finishes, and you need to do it on time, or you basically declare all the seats as general seats and you conduct the elections and you correct it later or whatever you need to do later. So the government, of course, cannot afford to do that because they have this whole OBC vote bank to look at. Not now for the Lok Sabha elections. So SEC has played it safe. The SEC has said that, look, please go to the court and get your clearance, because SEC does not want to fall foul of the court. However, I think the Goa government is latching on to just one fig leaf of hope, because the Bombay High Court recently, about 3 weeks ago, in another matter regarding this, has said that if there are heavy monsoons, then and in some places you cannot conduct elections, then we may permit you in some of the cases. So the Goa government has latched on to that order, and quickly the narrative, if you see, has changed from reservations to the weather. Okay, basically because they feel that the court might give them some relief there. However, I'm not saying the intentions are bad or malified or whatever. That is too big a charge to make at this point of time. But what is certain is that the decision to postpone these elections is not fair to local self-government and democracy. Because you can have administrators, but it is like having president's rule, a prolonged level of president's rule, because village level decisions have to be taken, panchayat decisions have to be taken, NOCs have to be given, and you need elected representatives to do that. At the local self-government, if you deprive the villages from their own local representatives, then you're hurting the grassroots democracy in a manner which is not correct.
Okay, then finally we come to today, that is Tuesday, 31st of March, the day we are shooting this episode. And only Herald carries this headline, and that is about the governor of Goa. Study the communal harmony and system of jurisprudence that existed pre-1961 and later. Governor Pillai.
Governor Pillai has said something very good. He's showed a lot of sagacity and maturity in saying this, because he has reflected upon the Goa that was there, the Goa of pre-61 and Goa after that also, where communal harmony and love and affection between different communities has been paramount in Goa. And the governor knows that, because he's not a governor who sits in the Rajbhavan alone. He travels extensively. He goes to different villages. He meets people. He's perhaps the most travelled Goan governor that we've ever seen, who has travelled within Goa. So he has seen this harmony in close quarters. It's not that his ADCs and advisors have briefed him and told him say this or this harmony. He has experienced this himself. And the thing is, the governor is an extremely learned man. He is a author of 121 books. He has
a background of law.
He is a lawyer himself. He studied law, so he understands things. And for him to say that, it's very important for the governor to flag this, because it is very important for all of us, including our elected representatives and the government, to remind ourselves what the core of Goa is. And the core of Goa is a very harmonious, friendly land, where there is no scope for any division and any hatred or any kind of doubt, as far as communities are concerned. And that is something I'm sure the governor's message will be equally endorsed by the government, by the chief minister. I'm sure they'll all be on the same page and see that these ideals are lived up to.
Is he making a comment in the context of some things which are not very, people are raising this issue that, Goa is not the Goa which we have seen?
See, it's difficult to say that, because we are talking of a very august office of the governor.
But I think, gentleman that he is, he doesn't want to get into confrontation or anything.
Yes, correct. What he's doing is he's stating the obvious in a nice way, and in a way that is known to people in Goa. He's essentially underlining out of from the core of his heart as to what he has felt as that Goa is. And I think that message should be appreciated by everybody, irrespective of the intentions. I mean, the point is, what he has said makes a lot of sense. Let's put it this way.
Okay. And this is basically essentially the values that Herald fights for on a day-to-day basis, when selecting stories, when highlighting stories, when pursuing stories. Okay, on that very positive note, and we hope that Goa remains like this, we wind up this episode of The Week That Was. I thank my guest, Mr. Sujay Gupta, Group Editor of Herald Publications, for being on this show and giving his insights. We hope to see you next week again on this program. Keep watching Herald TV.